Okay, YouTubers, this is Joe from Art Alien TV. Now, I've got a couple of things to show you today. I've got two brand new Gigapans to show you. First of all, I'm going to show you this black and white one. This is Sol 3225 from the Curiosity rover. Unfortunately, only in black and white, but these are trustworthy images. These black and white images that I've compiled this from are totally undoctored, as far as I know. And I can't say that for all the Curiosity images. A lot of them are messed with or just downgraded in such a way as we lose a lot of information and detail. Okay, but these are pretty good. And I've also got this new one here, which is from the Perseverance rover, Sol 171, mast right. Lots of stuff to see in here. I'll be coming back to this one in a minute. First of all, I'm going to show you this one. And we've got the rover in the foreground. We've got Mount Sharp up here to the left. Some of the lower slopes and butte structures at the bottom of Mount Sharp, going right off into the distance there. And just in front of the rover, we got this weird kind of ramp-like structure going up, and about 30 or 40 feet away, we have an exposed burial chamber. Okay, just here. And in fact, this whole thing here is a ruined and dilapidated burial dolmen or tomb that's collapsed and eroded away. And we have an exposed burial chamber just here. And if you look carefully just here where I've marked it, use the magnifier, you will see that there's either a head or a head-shaped burial mask. Just there. You can see an eye there, an eye there. There's the nose with nostrils. You can see nostrils either side. Nature does not carve perfect nostrils like this, which are symmetrical either side. It just doesn't do it. There's the mouth, and the head comes round, and we've got a chamber here. This is the foot of the chamber. It comes along to here. We've got some strange objects like this thing here, which I really don't know what it is, but it's very strange, this thing here. It's kind of chevron-shaped object with something inside it. This may be some kind of ornament or something that was buried with this person. Now, this is very large. Now, I don't know exactly how big this is, but if this is about 35 or 40 feet away, possibly a bit further, then this is very large indeed. I would say this is about 2 feet long, this mask or head. Okay? Now, I've got an enhancement of it down here. Just here. I've done a meme. Here's the general area, and here is that exposed burial, just here. And I've highlighted it to make it stand out because these black and white images are a bit dull. We have the head and the sides of the chamber here. This is one side here with like a little chamber in it just there, and this is the other side here. Now, it's not immediately obvious what you're looking at here, but if you look at the overall area, like I've got here, this is raw. You can see that head there, and you can see this side coming down here. You can see a footer here, like one end of the chamber, just here. And this boulder would mark the other side of the chamber. And you can see these other parts here where it's all kind of collapsed down. And I would suspect, if we actually look at the whole thing, that this whole thing was like a dome shape at one point and would have come right round to here. So it was quite large, and there may have been multiple burials in here, like a whole family perhaps, going through generations, okay? And I would suspect that there is another chamber hidden behind these boulders here, which are in better condition and haven't completely collapsed down like they have at this end. So this was a crude burial structure, like a dolmen, with large boulders around the outside, and then smaller boulders piled on top, and then it probably would have been covered in sand and dirt and everything else as well. Okay, so it would have been like a dome or mound shape. And this is one of the chambers here exposed. I'll show you that in more detail in a minute. I'll just quickly show you a couple of other things here. There's this weird kind of wall-like structure here. There's another weird sort of mound sticking up here. Interesting. And then we have this weird ramp-like structure here, which looks artificial and may represent either a dockside structure or building, or perhaps even a part of a bridge. Now, as I've said before, I've shown lots of these ramp-like structures in the area, including Mont Macao was one of the main ones I concentrated on. which is also a ramp, a long ramp, which is so large you can actually see it from space. It's really, really long. It's hundreds of feet long, and it's like a long ramp. This is a much shorter one here. This is probably less than 100 feet. It's probably about 60 feet or something from there to there, 50 maybe. So it's a bit shorter than that one, but it would be visible from space. And we've got this weird thing sticking out here. So that's strange in itself. So we've got lots of weird structures here, and there's loads and loads of fragments on this side here. We've got a long sort of structure, buried structure here, buried in sand and eroded and collapsed, and loads and loads of fragments have fallen down from this slope from the top. Loads of weird stuff in here, and I haven't even gone through all this stuff yet, but some of it looks very strange. Okay, so we may have artifacts in there. Then we have this weird structure here, or whatever it is, with a strange wall on top of it here, which is all kind of collapsed and eroded and broken down. We've got loads of fragments that have rolled down here as well. But how would that form naturally on top of this structure like that? Very strange. So I'm sure a lot of this stuff is actual ruins, because we have in the foreground or middle ground here, right in the middle of the image, almost, we have an exposed burial structure. And you can see all that in the meme, which I'm going to show you now. You can see the actual burial. This is raw, so I'm going to brighten this up for you. This bit here is raw. It's not being brightened up or anything. So let's go really bright, and then add some shadow back in. This is what I normally do. Let's go -10, and then get some shadows in there. There we are. Now, there's the head, or mask, which is really big. It's there. And there's one side of the chamber here, right? Here's the other side of the chamber with this big boulder here, which is kind of got broken fragments at the bottom. We got this weird thing sticking up here, like a thing sticking up out of the ground. So that marks one end, I think. Here, this is one end, and the body would be in here. Okay. It may have even come to here. This may be the footer or end of it here. Okay. And then we have this weird chevron-shaped thing here, with inner detail as well. Really strange. I will put close-ups of this in at the end of the video, and I will animate some of the clips I've done, and I've highlighted different things for you to look at more closely. Okay, so more on that later. But this is an exposed burial. Now, whether this is an actual head or a mask, I don't know. There's not quite enough detail in this to say it one way or the other. Okay, unfortunately, it's a bit too far back, but you can see the shape of it, and you can see the actual mouth here and the nose here with nostrils. And as I've said many times before, nature or the wind does not carve perfect things like this. It carves random stuff like this. Okay, Mother Nature does not carve that just with wind alone. Okay, doesn't happen. And you can see those nostrils on here quite clearly. That nose, and there's the eye. There's the other eye, which is very pasty, not very clear. And sort of big lip detail going on there. And a crease coming down the side. And a head coming around. Okay? So this may be a carving, like a burial mask, or it may actually be mummified. I don't know. Unfortunately, we wouldn't be able to find that out or determine that unless we got much closer, or the camera zoomed in much more. Okay, so that was that one. So I'll put more clips of that in at the end. A large burial dolmen that's collapsed and eroded, and we have an exposed chamber, and there are possible other chambers either under it or behind it, behind these boulders. Okay, so that was interesting. Now let's go to part 2. Now we're going to do this. This is Perseverance rover Sol 171. Very recent set of images. We've got a whole bunch of weird stuff here, and the main one is this, which is what I've called the reptoid, another reptoid. Now, initially it looks like a rock, and that's exactly what I thought it was initially, until I spotted this detail here, which is a chin and a mouth with pointed, sharp teeth here. Okay? Here's the eye. Here's the other eye. There's damage to it, obviously. Pitted, full of holes. Now, the question is, do these get textured by NASA? Do they add sort of texture to this stuff to make it look more like a rock? I don't know. Some people have suggested that, but I've never been able to prove it. It'd be very difficult to prove, in fact. But from what I can tell, the Perseverance rover images are pretty kosher, and they've left so much stuff in them, I do wonder whether they are actually completely normal, and they haven't obfuscated them. So, who knows? But basically, I'll show you it in here, because it's easier for me to point out on here. So here's the Reptoid, and you can quite clearly see that. Once you've seen the chin and those teeth, it's unmistakable. But if you were to only see the top part of this, and it was buried like this, then you would just say it was a rock. And I probably would as well. Here's the chin. There's the mouth, upper lip here, lower lip, and the teeth. Okay, there we are. There's no way that was carved by wind. It's fossilised by the looks of it, so maybe very ancient indeed. Here's one eye, with inner eye detail there. Okay. Here's the other eye. And it's just kind of dark in there. Like that. And then we have nostrils here. One here. And one here. This conforms very much with the reptoid or reptilian ones that I've shown before. Not only in this area, but also in Gale Crater. Who have just two holes for a nose and a little tiny nose structure just above it. Here. Okay? So no nostrils, as we would call them. They just have kind of holes. Okay? This is not human. And this is very large. I would say this is similar in size to that mask or skull that I just showed you in Gale Crater. This is very large. I would say about 2 feet from here to here, possibly more. Okay? Now that would mean that a human skull compared to this, which is only about between 7 and 9 inches from chin to the top, would only be about this big. Right? That is tiny in comparison to this, and the brain capacity of this thing would have been absolutely ginormous, and on par with the brain size of something like a dolphin, or perhaps even a small whale, like a killer whale. Okay, so that's the sort of brain capacity we're talking about here. Very large indeed, somewhere between 4 and 10 times the capacity of a human brain. Something like 8 times, perhaps 10, perhaps 6, don't know exactly. But that's the sort of territory we're in here. Okay, so we're dealing with intelligent beings on Mars. Not all of them human, some of them are. I've shown many human types before, including that one in Gale Crater I just showed you. That represents a human of some sort. This does not. This is a reptoid, what I would call a reptoid, an upright walking reptile, probably with 2 legs and 2 arms. Now, whether it was more humanoid and had a more human-like body, I don't know. Probably not, but there's no way to tell. But that's what we have here. We have another large reptilian or reptoid skull with very good teeth detail here. And in fact, once you know that teeth detail is there, you can actually see it in the raw image there. This is raw. Okay, you can see those teeth quite clearly just here. You can see those pointed teeth. They really stand out. Once you've spotted them, they're pretty hard to unspot. And you can even see that detail in the eye. There's like a little iris there, like a little slit-shaped iris there. Eye coming round, and there's this other eye here. And there's damage here. And you can see that nostril there and there. Okay, and the nose. Very small nose. There we are. A fossilised reptoid or reptilian Okay, similar in size, I would say. Now, if we look on the actual, let's quickly look at the Gigapan again. How far away is this, do you think? Now, the rover's obviously near the middle of this here, about here, down here, and has zoomed into this area. It hasn't driven right up to it. The camera's zoomed in probably about 20 or 30 feet, or possibly 50. So this is quite a long way off. And even if the rover was just here, this is still a long way off, and it's still large. So this is at least twice the height of a human skull, which will make it about 18 inches. Okay? But I would say 3 times the size in height or length from here to here, which would put it around 2 feet plus. Okay? So I would say it's between 1.5 feet and 3 feet from here to here. Probably about 2. But either way, this is way, way bigger than a human skull. Okay? So that was interesting. There's also this rock up here, which has got some weird stuff on it, like a rectangular carving with some weird details here. So that's interesting. I've got a clip of that over here, just here, where I've enhanced it for you. And you can clearly see, without really doing much to this, I've just added a bit of shadow, contrast, and color corrected this. You can see a rectangular shape in here, and some weird details, like some kind of carving here as well. Don't know what it represents, but it's interesting, that one. There's also this weird thing here, which I thought was a skull, but it's not. But it seems to have 3 eyes. Absolutely insane. I don't know what it represents, whether it's a carving or some kind of fossilized bit of brain coral or something, I don't know. Very interesting. It's really small and quite a long way off, so well, it's not that small. This is probably about 5 inches in size. It's pretty small. Then we have this weird thing here. This looks just like a rock until you look at it more closely. We've got this kind of fitted part on top, which seems to have been fitted with these parts. Very strange. These kind of overhanging details here. And what looks like an eye there, and a nasal cavity here. It's really odd, and another eye here. I don't know what that represents. It may just be a bunch of random rocks that are stuck together or something, I don't know. It's just very odd. And there's lots of these in the area, and some of them do look really, really strange. There's this mound, which I've shown before, up in the background, which is up here. I've done videos on that before, so I'm not going to go into that in great detail now. But that's an intelligent structure surrounded by smaller structures. This is miles away, by the way. Okay, we're looking northwest there, I think, and this is up on the edge of the crater, right? And here's a negative of that with a structure here and multiple structures, small structures around it as well. So this is an intelligent structure. Okay, so there's a link to that here. If you click on that link, that will take you to that video, and that goes into a lot more detail. And then there's this kind of detail here, which was really interesting. We've got this big sort of overhang just here, which looks like the remains of a structure or something that was here. And just below it here, we have a rock with what seems to be glyphs on it, just here. Okay? Just here. You can see, very vaguely, some little glyphs there in a line coming across this way. Right? Not very clear, but when you enhance the shadows on it and add contrast, like I've done here, you can see that overhang sticking out, which is pretty cool. Right? And then just below, we have this, and when you enhance the contrast, these will pop out for you. You need to sharpen it a little bit as well, so you can do that yourself. You can take a clip of that, the raw clip, and just add a bunch of shadow and contrast like I normally do, color correct it a little bit, and then sharpen it like I've done here, and you can see a row of glyphs here, just here. It's not very clear, unfortunately, and it's not the best example, so I won't spend too long on that. So there's loads of weird stuff here, and there's also this structure up here in the background on this mountainous ridge here, which is at the edge, the northern edge of the crater, right, northwestern edge. We have an interesting shaped thing here, and you can see it without doing anything to the actual image, just here. Okay, there's a part sticking up there and here, and it goes right up like that. Now this is on the slope, okay? This is sloping. But that looks like an intelligent structure. But it's definitely there. Okay? Just there. Interesting. So lots of stuff to see in this one. I'm not going to go through all of it now. There's that weird rock there with the weird attached part on top. There's loads of crazy stuff in here, and I'm sure some of these are probably skulls and carvings and fragments of buildings and burials perhaps, that kind of thing. And there's loads of crazy stuff in the background on this ridge, most of which I've shown before. Loads of crazy things like eroded buildings and structures up here on this ridge here. And it's all kind of eroded and covered in sand and half buried. There's tons and tons of crazy stuff. I'm only just glossing over some of this stuff today, but I'm sure a lot more of this is architectural fragments, and these are probably buried structures. As I've said many times before, a lot of these mounds are buried structures, because when we have glyphs in the area, skulls in the area, and carvings and such like, that says to me that we're in the middle of or on the edge of a buried, ruined town or city. Okay, much like you would see in ancient Egypt or ancient Syria or ancient Iran or ancient Greece or somewhere like that, or ancient Rome or something like that. Okay, very much like that. But it's all buried in sand and all very, very eroded, a lot of this stuff. But occasionally in between these things we see very large specimens like this, fossils, which may have been buried for a very long time until quite recently, we don't know. But this is probably a million years old, who knows. But as I've said before, I think in some of these areas, like these lake bed areas, because of the minerals in the sand and the lake sediments, the salt minerals and bicarbonate minerals, I think these fossilise fairly quickly and then gradually turn to stone. But they literally fossilise, they crystallise in a matter of days, and then start fossilising within a matter of months. So within a few years, I think these would be semi-fossilised and then gradually harden and crystallise even harder over millennia. Okay, that's what I think is happening. So I don't think that these took very long to fossilise, a lot of these things initially, but have gradually hardened and eroded over time and smoothed out, and we've got these pitted holes and stuff in them as well. So there we are, another reptoid or reptilian, a whole bunch of weird things with carved stuff on, a weird rock-like thing with 3 eyes, probably some kind of coral or some. These may be little fossils on here that are causing these eye-like details. Okay, crazy stuff, not very clear, this is quite small, but absolutely insane. And then of course we have the exposed burial chamber. So I'll put clips of all this coming in about a minute. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Please give the thumbs up if you haven't already. Hit that thumbs up button, and please let me know if you're getting notifications from YouTube, because a lot of people are saying they're not. Okay, if you're not, make sure you press the bell, and there are bell options you need to press as well. You may need to check the options on the bell on my channel, the subscription bell, because if you don't have the right thing selected, it won't give you notifications. There are 3 options now, I think. So check that out. So thanks for watching, everybody. Clips coming up now.